Going into Nobody 2, I had some doubts. The first film was one of my favorite action surprises of the past decade, turning Bob Odenkirk into a legit action star and nailing that mix of brutal and fun. But sequels to break out it can be tricky, and early reactions said this one was a huge step down. So while I was excited, I kept my guard up. Walking out of the theater, I can't lie, I had an absolute blast with this movie. For me, this is exactly what I wanted from a Nobody sequel. Does it reinvent the wheel? Not really. Is it a little familiar? Sure, but the execution is so sharp, the action so over the top, and the energy so contagious that I couldn't stop grinning the whole way through. This is the kind of sequel that doubles down on what worked the first time instead of trying to completely change the formula. Honestly, I'm totally fine with that. Hutch is still an amazing character, Bob Odenkirk is still giving 110%, and the movie never once drags. If anything, it reminded me why I loved the first one so much in the first place. The story is so simple but effective, keeping in line with the tone of the original. Hutch is once again trying to live a quiet life, this time taking his family on a much-needed vacation, hoping to finally leave his violent past behind. But of course, trouble finds him when Sharon Stone's villain enters the picture, dragging him back into a world of chaos, revenge, and bloodshed. It's now a plot that's trying to twist your brain into knots. It's lean, mean, and direct, giving Hutch just enough of a reason to unleash absolute carnage. Along the way, his family and allies get roped in, and the stakes keep escalating until the finale explodes into pure madness. Now the positives. The action here is phenomenal. If you thought the first movie was brutal, this one cranks it up another notch. The gore is gnarly, with some jaw-dropping kills that had the audience audibly reacting in my theater. It's the kind of action where every punch, stab, and gunshot feels like it has weight behind it. On top of that, the cinematography makes it all look gorgeous. There's a slickness and style to the way the camera moves that makes even the most chaotic fights easy to follow. I also have to give credit to how creative some of the set pieces are. You never feel like you're watching the same fight twice. Every encounter has its own flavor and personality. And Hutch is still the art of the movie. Bob Odenkirk continues to impress me with how much depth he brings to this character. Hutch could have been just another retired badass trope, but Odenkirk gives him charm, vulnerability, and the sense of humor that makes him stand out. You root for him, you laugh with him, and you wince when he takes a beating, because he doesn't come across as an invincible action hero. He comes off like a scrappy fighter who just refuses to quit. The supporting cast also deserves a big shout out. Everyone's great, but Christopher Lloyd steals every scene he's in. Just like in the first movie, he looks like he's having the time of his life, leaning into the absurdity of the role and providing some of the funniest moments in the film. The comedy overall is handled really well, never undercutting the tension too much, but giving the audience just enough release between the blood-soaked mayhem. It's that balance of humor and violence that made the first Nobody work so well, and I'm glad they carried it over here.
Let's do that!
Now for the mixed element, the villain. Sharon Stone's character is sharp, stylish, and full of great dialogue, making her stand out from typical action villains. But there's one scene where she randomly starts dancing that felt awkward and out of place. It's not a deal breaker, she's still a fun antagonist, but that moment definitely pulled me out for a bit. So overall, Nobody 2 is exactly the kind of sequel I was hoping for. It doesn't reinvent the formula, but it takes what worked in the first movie and delivers it again with just as much energy and confidence. The action is brutal and creative, the gore is gnarly, the cinematography is slick, the comedy hits perfectly, and Hutch remains one of the most entertaining action heroes we have today. Add in a supporting cast that's clearly having a blast, and the villain who, while a little uneven, still makes an impression, and you've got yourself one hell of a good time at the movies. For me, this isn't a step down, it's right in line with what made the first film so fun, and that happily watch Hutch tear through bad guys for as many sequels as they want to make. Nobody 2 gets a 9.5 from me, and it's easily one of the most surprising and enjoyable films of 2025 so far. And that's going to wrap my review for Nobody 2. Honestly, this movie really surprised me, and I had such a blast with it from start to finish. But of course, that's just my take. I want to know what you thought about it. Did you enjoy the sequel as much as I did? Or did you feel like it was a step down from the original? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your opinions and get a conversation going. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next review. Goodbye everyone.